Hospitals are designed around a promise that no matter how exhausted you are, no matter how junior you roll, no matter how long the night stretches on, the building itself is meant to hold you. Walls, lights, protocols, security desks. They are not just architecture. They are guardians by design. On August 9, 2024, inside a government hospital in Kolkata, India, that promise did not simply fail. It was absent. The victim was a 31-year-old trainee doctor. After completing a 36-hour hospital duty, she lay down to rest inside a seminar hall at RG Kar Medical College and Hospital. She was alone. Later, a colleague found her body near a podium. She was partially unclothed. She had visible injuries. The post-mortem examination confirmed strangulation and sexual assault. It also documented injuries consistent with active resistance. In forensic medicine, resistance is not inferred from narrative. It is assessed through patterned injuries that occurred during physical struggle. At the same time, forensic science has limits. It can identify trauma and sequence injuries, but it cannot reconstruct intent, duration, or every movement inside an unobserved space. What it can say here is enough. This was not accidental harm. This was not a sudden collapse. This was violence that unfolded while the victim was conscious and resisting. The accused, Sanjay Roy, a 33-year-old hospital volunteer, was arrested the following day. According to the charge sheet filed by the Central Bureau of Investigation, he entered the hospital in an intoxicated state and encountered the doctor asleep. He was later found guilty. Though he has maintained that he was framed, conviction resolves legal responsibility. However, it does not automatically resolve institutional responsibility, especially when access itself was never meant to exist. This case cannot be examined without confronting a basic question. Why was a non-clinical volunteer able to move freely through hospital spaces at night? Access is policy. Access is design. Access is permission made physical. Volunteer authorization, background screening, night movement controls, and monitoring protocols are not administrative footnotes. They are safeguards. When these systems are porous, accountability becomes abstract, and harm becomes statistically predictable. This was not a failure of awareness. This was a failure of control. The initial investigation was handled by local police. Early reporting revealed allegations of mishandling. Some narratives attempted to frame the incident as self-harm. Only after sustained public pressure was the case transferred to the Central Bureau of Investigation. Doctors protested, medical students rallied, and the hospital principal resigned. Within hours, he was appointed to lead another institution. Systems speak through outcomes, and this outcome spoke clearly. Criminological research does not speak of a single offender profile. Instead, what it consistently identifies are behavioral patterns. Sexual violence is overwhelmingly about dominance and control, rather than attraction. Alcohol, when present, does not create violent intent. What it does is lower inhibition in environments where oversight is weak. Substance use becomes a risk multiplier only when opportunity and impunity already exist. This distinction matters. Blame must not drift toward intoxication as cause, nor toward chance as explanation. Routine activity theory states that violence becomes likely when three conditions converge. 1. A motivated offender. 2. A suitable target. And 3. An absence of guardianship. Unfortunately, Indian public hospitals routinely satisfy all three. Security is understaffed or symbolic. CCTV exists, but is not monitored live. The junior staff are left alone overnight in unsecured spaces. This is not coincidence. It is structural exposure. Peer-reviewed gender studies in India show that women in authority roles are often perceived as violating expected hierarchies. Professional competence does not erase gendered expectations of obedience or availability. When authority is ambiguous, violence becomes corrective. Not impulsive, not random. Meaning, violence functions as punishment when social norms feel threatened. Institutional responses often reinforce this. After this case, some medical institutions issued restrictive guidelines aimed at women doctors, like earlier curfews, movement controls, behavioral advisories. These measures create the appearance of action, while leaving structural risks untouched. Risk is relocated onto women rather than risks being removed from the environment. Research on institutional betrayal identifies patterns that increase future harm. These patterns include the following. 1. Downplaying incidents to protect reputation. 2. Discouraging external reporting. 3. Reassigning rather than confronting. 4. Framing violence as an occupational hazard. These are not neutral responses. They signal tolerance. Silence in institutions is not passive. It is, however, operational. Public hospitals are pressure chambers. They sit where grief, delay, scarcity, and authority collide. Doctors become visible representative of systems patients cannot negotiate with. This does not explain sexual violence, but it amplifies hostility. When combined with gender power dynamics, violence becomes a distorted attempt to reclaim agency from an inaccessible system. This crisis persists not because of ignorance, but because incentives are misaligned. Hospitals are rewarded for throughput, reputation, and cost containment. They are rarely penalized for unsafe night duty conditions. underreporting harm, or failing to protect junior staff. This unconsciously sends signals that accountability remains optional. In December of 2024, the victim's parents petitioned the Kolkata High Court, expressing lack of faith in the investigation. They believed the accused could not have acted alone. Families often raise this concern in institutional cases, not out of speculation, but because systems with opaque access and delayed accountability rarely fail in isolation. Legal proof and systemic doubt are not the same. Both deserve to be acknowledged honestly. In 2012, the assault and murder of a medical student in Delhi, India, led to legal reform. Laws changed, but enforcement, institutional design, and workplace safety did not change at the same pace. Legal reform without structural reform produces repetition, not prevention. This case is not only about one individual. It is about systems where protection exists on paper but disappears at night. When laws promise safety, but institutions decide how much safety is practical. When medical workers are expected to endure risk as proof of dedication. After national outrage led to stronger laws, the question was never whether protection existed. It was whether those protections would be enforced where power and reputation were at stake. So I couldn't help but ask this. If laws cannot protect doctors inside the institutions they serve, then who are those laws really for? This has been CrimeSynth. Until next time.